Welcome to the Terry Stanley channel. Today, I would like to introduce you to the story, The Child of the Moon. Author, Daughter of Hades 17. Read by, Terry Stanley. Luna's POV. Luna dear, it's time to get up for school. My father was attempting to wake me up for the last day of school. My father has always been so kind to me. He is tall and slim, and has generous eyes. The kinds of eyes that give you hope. They are a warm blue, the color of the Caribbean Sea. Compared to my dangerous silver eyes that resemble the moon, he has the most wonderful eyes anyone could gaze upon. My sweet child, please hurry, we're going to be late. My father calls out to me in his lovely voice. I'm already out the door, I call back cheerily. Line. Bye daddy, I yell back at my father peering out the window of his SUV. As I open the door to my last day of freshman year, I get a very strange feeling, a feeling like something bad is going to happen. Less than 15 minutes later my teacher walks in the room. Mrs. Leaches is a wonderful woman, but an absolutely dreadful teacher. All she does is drone on about her terrible love life. She did her attendance, then sent us our separate ways. First period was gym. We were in the middle of a dodgeball game when a humongous black dog interrupts our class. He had shaggy black fur that was midnight black and smelled of death. I was frozen, I couldn't move. As the wall started to burn with bright orange flames, the other students screamed bloody murder and ran. My feet felt like lead. Luna, the girls with no fears, was petrified. As the dog started towards me, I willed every cell in her body to move. And so I ran. I ran until I had no breath in my lungs. As I stopped to take a break, I instantly fainted, in the woods, in the middle of Long Island. Connor's POV. Today was the day Travis and I head back to Camp Half-Blood. Most people mistake Travis and I to be twins considering how much we look alike. But we are only a mere 10 months apart and fully related, same mother and all. Seems Hermes couldn't stay away from our mum. Anyways, we both have very messy, very curly, dirty blonde hair that is almost never tended to on my part, and extremely boring brown eyes. While I was driving my silver Camaro back to camp, I saw a girl, no less than 16, running as if a monster was chasing her. Then my stupid self finally realized that she actually was being chased by a hellhound. I quickly got out of my sports car and bolted after the girl. Being the sleek age of 21, running was no problem for me, and being the son of the god of speed just adds to the mix. When I finally reached the mysterious girl, I found her to be passed out on the ground, probably from exertion. I gently scooped her up, bridal style, and carried her back to my car. Connor's POV. When her eyes fluttered open, my heart nearly stopped. Her glowed with an aura only the moon could possess. They were dangerous silver with veins of black running through the iris. I could have stared into those eyes for all of eternity if she hadn't spoken up. Excuse me sir, who are you and where are we? She asked nervously. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Connor Stoll, son of Hermes, and we are on our way to camp. Camp? What camp? I can't go to camp, I need to talk to my dad. He thinks I'm at school. She looked terrified. At that moment I just wanted to pull her into my arms and tell me everything was going to be alright. So I just settled for the classic question you're supposed to ask anyone you suspect is a demigod. Do you have a step-parent? I asked curiously. No, why would you ask that? She looked stunned at my question and finished her rant by saying I have a single dad. I stared at her, wondering who her godly parent was. My train of thought was interrupted by her sweet, angelic voice. Why are you asking about my dad? I didn't want to scare her away and I didn't want to beat around the bush, so I put it bluntly. You may or may not be a demigod. A demigod, as in Greek mythology. She paused from her excitement to say my mother's a goddess, isn't she? She sounded heartbroken, like she had been forced to eat glass. Half-bloods always had hard lives. I mean, look at Percy, he was the child of not only one, but two prophecies. I simply nodded my head to answer her question. Luna's POV. I'm a half-blood, My mother is a goddess. This information was so unbelievable it was funny. "Hey, what's wrong? I mean, it is a lot to take in," he said, every word with concern in his voice. "This is not happening." I started to freak out. "I just can't believe you haven't been claimed yet. I mean, what are you, 17? "Actually, I'm 15, I say proudly. Anyway, my name is Luna Senza. You can't call me girl you found in the woods forever." At this he began laughing hysterically. Then he said Senza as in Adrian Senza, that guy who pranked the president. Connor exclaimed like a little boy who had just met his idol. "Well, his name is Adrian, but I prefer to call him Dad." "Wow, can you get me his autograph? My brother and I adore pulling pranks on people." "Here, have this." I ended up handing him one of my pointless permission slips. Lean line. We suddenly pulled into a clearing. It had lush, full, bright green trees. In the center there was a large pine that was extremely patterned with delicate designs. Everything was interrupted by Connor calling, "Come on, we're at camp." When I reached the bottom of the hill, I saw a big, dark, wooden arch with the word Camp Half-Blood carved into it. When I walked through the arch, I felt like a piece of my soul had finally returned. Connor suddenly shouted, "Let's get you to Chiron." As Connor led me to the largest cabin, I couldn't help but feel sparks down my spine as he places his hand on my lower back to guide me. As we got to the porch, a man in a wheelchair came through the open door. Connor, who do we have here?" the man questioned. "Chiron, this is Luna Senza. I think she is a half-blood, she is clear-sighted." Connor explained to Chiron. "Well then, in that case you can give her the tour and show Luna to Hermes' cabin." He then got up to reveal the rest of himself. It took me a minute to realize that he was half horse, a centaur. "Why, you're a sea centaur?" I shouted out without thinking. "Yes, child, I am," he said soothingly, before Connor had a chance to interrupt. "Come on, I'll show you around." Before I could respond, he excitedly grabbed my hand and showed me around camp. What I saw, kids ranging from age 11 to 25, doing multiple activities such as archery, rock climbing, and sword play. When we got to the arch of basic cabins, he started to explain the details. "That's Zeus's cabin, Jason lives there year-round, and that Poseidon's cabin, Percy lives there." He then pointed out all of the cabins, including a bright silver one, the color of my eyes. We continued to walk until we reached his cabin 11. "This is where I live, Hermes' cabin. It will be your temporary home until," he began to trail off, "you get claimed." I then looked around me to see a large group of people with shocked looks on their faces. I decided to look above my head to see a shiny, metallic, bow and quiver over my head. Chiron galloped in and spoke. "She's the lost child of Artemis." Chapter 3. Chiron galloped in and spoke. "She's the lost child of Artemis." Luna's POV. I was shocked. Artemis, as in the goddess of virginity. Whenever my father spoke of my mother, he always said she broke a promise that she made to her dad and that she will always love me and my father, but he never told me the promise was to never fall in love. A boy with raven black hair and hypnotizing sea green eyes spoke up. "Lost child of Artemis, how is she lost?" There was once a tale told that Artemis fell in love with a man and she gave birth to his child. Zeus then got extremely angry. He threatened to kill the child. He paused to catch his breath. After the child was born, she hid them away in a small enclosed town protected by her blessing. Zeus declared that if this child was ever found, she would have to be brought to Olympus that second. "So I'm going to Olympus?" I questioned nervously. "Yes, child," he said, trying to calm my nerves. I started to walk away and then asked, "Which way is Olympus?" "You're not going by yourself, Percy, you shall go with her," Chiron said in a demanding voice. Then the boy with black hair and mesmerizing green eyes started to walk in my direction. He whistled and two Pegasus flew in. Having ridden horses all my life, it was natural to get up and ride/fly away. Connor's POV. Seeing her fly away with Percy gave me a feeling in the pit of my stomach I had never felt before, envy. That was supposed to be me with her. I saw her first. I stormed off into my cabin and was deep in my angry thoughts until I heard Travis come in. "Dude, why are you so angry?" "I think I like Luna," a lot. And seeing her with Percy made me want to punch him in the throat for even being near her. I know he loves Annabeth, but Luna's so different and I don't want her hurt. I took a deep breath and the end of my rant. Travis sat there silent, for a while, and then said you got it bad, and walked away. I needed to think. I suddenly felt drowsy. I lay on my bunk and drifted off to sleep dreaming of the girl with silver eyes. Luna's POV. When we finally landed I realized we were at the Empire State Building. Why are we going in the Empire State Building? As much as I love it, I've already been there 7 times. I stated matter-of-factly. You've been 7 times and haven't been blown up. He sounded so shocked. Why would I blow up? It's not like this is Olympus. Actually it is. As Percy summed up my conclusions I started to wonder if Zeus was that clueless. Line. We stepped out of the elevator onto the 600th floor. I felt a cold breeze drift over my skin leaving a trail of goosebumps behind. We walked through a hall until we reached an enormous room with 12 thrones in a U-shape. Suddenly a man with tropical printed shirt and eyes the same as Percy's. So this is Poseidon, son, what are you doing here? I wasn't expecting you, and who is this? Curiosity glinted in his eyes. I'm here to see Zeus and hopefully Artemis, and this is Luna. He noticed my eyes and froze, his face, expressionless. You're the forbidden child. Everyone's head snapped in my direction. I had 10 Olympian gods' eyes on me. All was still until thunder rumbled and a figure I guessed was Zeus came in. Who are you? He boomed at me. It took every ounce of confidence to reply, the forbidden child. I tried to say it with pride, but failed miserably. He raised his hand and a staff the shape of a lightning bolt shot out of thin air and into his hand. Just as he was about to strike, a 12-year-old girl with eyes the same shade as mine ran in front of me shouting for him to stop. Everything was a blur. The young girl quickly changed into a woman who looked like the pictures my father had shown me. The pictures were of my mother. She spoke with kindness and grace, my child, for I have always loved you and protected you, and I shall protect you from death, even if that results in my own punishment. The love in her eyes was tremendous. I never thought I would meet the woman who would unconditionally love me until this minute. She spoke again but with fear. Father, you shall not hurt my only child, spare her and allow us to live in peace. You broke your promise, you have to be punished. He shouted at her, fuming. Artemis broke into tears, sobbing. She spoke, then punish me and let her live. She is the light in this world, she has made the moon shine brighter than the sun. At my mother's word I started to sob as well. I had always thought my mother had left because she had never loved me, but in that moment I realized she left because she loved me too much, much more than a goddess should love her child. I looked around. Not only was I in tears but Athena, Aphrodite, Demeter, Hestia who was tending to the hearth, and Percy, as well as Apollo were all in tears. Zeus then broke down and the clouds started to rain. With a wave of his hand we all knew that I was going to live a long happy life, with the love of my mother and father. Shall we bring you two back to camp? My mother asked hopefully, no longer crying. I wiped my last tear and nodded. Lean line. When we got back to camp we arrived in the dining pavilion. As soon as I looked up my gaze landed on the sweet curly-haired boy with mischievous blue eyes. When he noticed me he got up and ran full speed and pulled me into a bone-crushing hug. I knew I was going to love this boy one way or another. Chapter 4. 6 weeks later. Connor's POV. It's the last day of camp. Every time I look at Luna I fall in love with her even more. We are the best of friends, we talk and spar all the time. Some Aphrodite campers say we spend more time together than Percy and Annabeth. Tomorrow morning I go back to the city to find a job and she has to go start sophomore year. This is our last night together and I just want to spend time with her. Lean line. Just after the fireworks. Luna's POV. Connor suddenly came running and slammed right into me. Where you going, bud? I question. Actually I was coming to see you. As we walk back to my cabin he swiftly swings me over his shoulder and carries back to my cabin as I giggle hysterically. Your house, m'lady, he says while bowing. "Thank you, kind sir," I reply, still laughing. When I walk through the threshold he asks, "Want to play truth or dare?" "Okay then, Connor, truth or dare?" "Dare, I thought you knew me better than that," he said sadly, putting a hand on his heart. "Fine, I dare you to egg the big house." About 3 hours later, we ended up on the beach staring into the waves when I came up with the perfect dare. "I dare you to go jump into the lake." As he starts to strip down to his boxers he replies, "Only if you come with." He begins to run into the water as I unbutton my jeans. Luckily today I wore my mint green lacery bra and matching underwear. I quickly run into the crystal blue water, the same color as Connor's eyes. I love staring into his eyes, they make my knees weak and my heart melt. I felt a tug on my ankle. I didn't think about what it was until I was completely submerged. When I resurfaced I quickly punched whatever object pulled me under and quickly realized that it was Connor. I decided to continue the game and ask him, "Have you ever wanted to kiss me?" I ask slowly. "All the time," he quickly answers before crashing his lips onto mine. The kiss was slow and passionate. I felt my entire body relax into the kiss. He poured every ounce of love he could manage into it. When we finally broke apart for air, he finally said the 3-little word every girl wants to hear. "I love you," he mumbled before diving back into another kiss. Chapter 5. Luna's POV. He loves me, he really loves me. Before I could respond he brings his lips back onto my own. They taste like rich chocolate and dirt. It was one of the strangest combinations possible, but he makes them taste incredibly amazing. When we broke apart for air, I had to respond to his earlier comment, "I love you too," I muttered under my breath. As we waded out onto the sand once again, we began to walk back to my cabin. As we got to the door Connor started to mumble something that sounded like, "You kissed a 15-year-old girl, you idiot." "Connor, is something wrong?" I questioned nervously. "Luna, it's just that you're so young, and that you could find someone so much better." He looked at me with saddened eyes and an expressionless face. Before he could go on I grabbed his face with both my hands and stared into his bright blue eyes while saying, "I fell in love with you because you are exactly what I want. I will never find anyone better because you are imperfect in a perfect way." His scared expression changed into a huge, toothy grin. I pulled him into one last kiss before the night ended. The kiss was sweet and passive. He released me from his strong grasp and whispered, "Sweet dreams, Loon," before walking back to cabin 11. I swiftly opened the door to my cabin. I closed the door and instantly fell onto the birchwood floor. I put my smiling face into my palms and hoped I would dream about a future with this wonderfully mischievous boy. Connor's POV. When I got back to my cabin, I had my older brother awaiting my arrival. "Dude, you're smiling like an idiot, what happened with Luna?" "I kissed her, she kissed me back. I told her I loved her," she replied. I was smiling like I had just completed a huge prank. "Congrats bro, you now have to make it official." "I have to what?" I exclaimed as loudly as I could without waking up my entire cabin. "You have to ask her to be your girlfriend, be all romantic and such." He tried to explain this to me without looking stupid, but he failed. He always looked stupid. "How are you going to ask her?" "I'm going to." Chapter 6. Luna's POV. 1 week later. Today is the first day of sophomore year. I'm insanely excited, but it pains me to be away from Connor for so long. He went into Manhattan to find a job and I secretly hope that he finds one near Long Island. As I walk through the doors I feel as if something amazing is going to happen today. My thoughts are interrupted by my best friend in the entire world, Etta Dawn. "How was your summer?" she exclaims excitedly. "Well, I ended up going to a camp for special kids." "Were there any cute boys?" "Speaking of cute boys, have you seen our TA? Teacher's assistant." "I have my eye on someone already, sorry Etty," I explained. "Oh blab girl." She started to nag. Well, I started, but trailed off noticing who a new teacher's assistant was. I decided to speak a little louder. "He has the messiest, honey-colored, curly hair, and the most enticing, mischievous, Caribbean blue eyes. He's quite muscular, not to mention he has the hottest name ever, Connor Stoll." Our new TA quickly turned around at the mention of his name and screeched, "Who called?" When he turned he saw me and our gaze locked. Out of nowhere, he ran as fast as possible and barreled me into a warm, loving kiss. He didn't care who was watching, or rather that I was a student, he just kissed me with all of the love and passion he could conjure up. When he finally pulled away he asked, "What are you doing here? Clearly you weren't listening when I told you that I go to school here," I say matter-of-factly. Eto impatiently made a coughing noise that went something along the lines of "Cough, introduce me, cough." "Etty, this is Connor Stoll, our new TA and my—" I couldn't answer because we had never actually specified what we were. "I'm her boyfriend," he answers confidently, "if you let me be." I didn't even answer his question, I just pulled him into another heart-racing kiss. Before we could continue the bell rang and I had to go to class. "I love you, see you later," I yelled as I ran to class with Etta. I saw him mouth an "I love you" back before the crowd enclosed around him. Time skip. As I was walking towards the bus stop I felt a hand clasp around my wrist. I quickly pulled out my dagger and held it against the mysterious person's throat. I instantly knew who my capturer was when I heard, "You're feisty, that's one thing I love about you." I swiftly sheathed my dagger and grabbed Connor collar. I stared into his hypnotizing eyes before kissing him. It was short and sweet, like all kisses should be. "Don't you ever do that to me again, you scared me nearly half to death." "I just wanted to give you a ride, would you like a ride?" he questioned. "Of course, I'll take any excuse to spend more time with you," I said cheerily. On the car ride home we laughed, talked, and sang to the songs on the many radio stations. When we reached my house I gave him a quick kiss goodbye. I opened the French doors into my living room to be greeted my father. "Who's the boy?" he questions. "How did you know I was with a boy?" I question back. Because nobody smiles like that unless they were spending time with the opposite gender. He states while I run up the stairs into my room. Chapter 7, Etty receives a secret. Luna's POV. As I lazily got out of my intensely comfortable bed, I realized that I had around 15 minutes to get ready for school. I scavenged the floor for a pair of denim jeans, and rummaged through my closet to find a black V-neck t-shirt. "Luna, a boy is here!" my father shouted up the stairs. "A boy? Which boy?" I thought to myself. Then the realization hit me, Connor Stoll was downstairs, talking to my father. I ran as quickly as I could downstairs only to hear my father saying, "How old are you, because you look like you could be her teacher?" "I'm 21 and I technically am her teacher's assistant," he answered nervously. "You're her what?" My father flipped his cap and was fuming by the ears. I ran between my father and Connor before he could strangle the boy. I reassured him we met at summer camp. My father's face went from anger to shock. He's a me, a half-blood. "Connor Stoll, son of Hermes, at your service," Connor said with a lopsided grin. Time skip. We had been driving in Connor's Camaro for about 15 minutes when we saw an '87 Volkswagen rolled over, in the ditch. I instantly knew whose car that was. No one had loved that car more than Etta. Connor looked like he had something else on his mind. "What's wrong?" I asked, blinking back tears. What if Etty was dead, my best friend in the entire universe, dead? That car wasn't rolled on its own, it was a monster. When I heard him say monster I bolted. Etta would not be pulled into my world and I would not be the one to bring her into it. I had to save her, she can't die. I heard a blood-curdling scream. I knew that scream, I had heard that scream a gazillion times. Etta was kind of a scaredy cat. I ran faster, knowing that Connor was following close behind. When I found her there was a chimera hovering his sharp spike of a tail, over her heart. She was breathing heavily, and looked so pale she could have been a corpse. Before I could kill the beast Connor had leapt into action, he stabbed the beast's shoulder. The chimera turned around and swung his tail into Connor's abdomen. If I wasn't crying before I sure was now. With tear-stained cheeks I ran over to his limp body. Halfway to Connor the chimera blocked my way. Out of pure rage and madness I stabbed the beast and continued my journey over to my newly wounded boyfriend. "Luna, I love you, never leave me," he muttered weakly. "I'll never leave you, how could I leave such a wonderful person, I love you." Tears were streaming down my reddened cheeks and onto his open wound. The blood began to clear and a silver mist began to swirl. Before I could muster up anything to say, Connor looked down at his freshly healed wound and screeched, "What the fuck?" I laughed at his reaction and realized that Apollo had blessed my tears and allowed him to be healed from the love I had radiating through my body. Only a child of Athena would be smart enough to figure this out, so I settled for the note that was taped on my best friend's shirt. She had passed out shortly after we had shown up. When she awoke she was on the hood of the Camaro and already bandaged up. "What was that?" she exclaimed. "That was a chimera, very deadly. You're lucky I recognized your now broken car. That thing destroyed my car, I hoped it suffered." She had always been one for revenge, it's one thing we agreed upon, and if you don't mind me asking, how exactly did you kill it? She questioned. "Etta, have you ever heard of the Greek gods?" I had never shown up at school that day because both Connor and I had spent the day explaining everything to Etta. We had never asked if she was a demigod because we both knew she had mortal parents. The best way to describe her reaction to the whole situation was, "So that's why you're so hot." She had directed that one at Connor. And she finished with, "Are all male demigods hot, 'cause I want one." Connor stifled a laugh while I was rolling on the floor in a fit of giggles. I'd say she took the news well. Chapter 8, He's Gay. Luna's POV. It had been a few days since the Etty instance and she was now overloading Connor and me with questions. We had been sitting in the mall food court in silence until Etta noticed a boy. "OMG, he is fine," she exclaimed. "Who?" I question. "Him." She points at a lonely, emo boy, who I recognize as Nico D'Angelo, son of Hades. Etta begins to get up and go over to her current love interest as Connor comes back from the bathroom. I waste no time informing him on what is going to happen. I had seen this particular process one too many times. First she goes and compliments the object of her affection on his shoes. Nico happens to be wearing bulky combat boots. Then she tries to find something they have in common. She then proceeds to ask them out formally. She almost always gets rejected, but it's funny as Tartarus to watch. As she attempts to flirt with Nico, I can tell that he is suppressing a laugh. I notice Etta lean in closer to show off her cleavage subtly. When this doesn't work she normally tries to be blunt and fails. She returns to us and sees that we have been laughing. Etta's POV. I get up to go flirt with the boy clad in black. I'm instantly intrigued by him. When I reach my destination I run into him. "Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't see you there," I smile seductively. "It's all right." He begins to walk away but I catch up and touch his forearm to stop him. "My name is Etta and that is a very nice pair of shoes you're wearing." I'm Nico. His man of few words thing is starting to piss me off. I notice his shopping bags and see that he has been to Urban Outfitters. "I love Urban Outfitters," I say flirtatiously, slightly leaning over to expose my chest. "That's my friend Will's bag," he says while smiling. At this point I'm just pissed, so I put it bluntly, "Will you go out with me?" After I finish my sentence he begins to laugh, like hysterically. He replies with no thank you. I disappointedly walk back over to Connor and Luna to find them rolling around laughing. Luna's POV. "Why are you laughing?" Etty says coldly. "Etta, calm down, there's a reasonable explanation of Nico's rejection," I state. "I never told you his name was Nico." Connor and I pale. "Oh no, he's one of you, isn't he?" "I'm surprised he hasn't seen us yet," replied Connor. "Well, spit it out, why did I get rejected?" "Etta, when you leaned over, did he look?" I say, trying not to give too much away. Connor just continued to laugh. "Now that you mention it, he didn't, and I mean I have great boobs," she exclaims glumly. "The only men who don't sneak a peek are?" The look of realization on her face was incredulous. I look over my shoulder to see Nico sucking off a certain son of Apollo's face. "He's gay," she screeched. Now I feel really stupid. At this Connor and I laughed at how clueless she could be. Chapter 9, Tiberius Wesley James. Lunar POV. As I walked into gym class, the first thing I noticed was that there was a substitute teacher. She had auburn hair that stretched out to her waist. When she turned around, shock filled my system. "Mom. Luna, this is you school?" she exclaimed in her sweet, angelic voice. What are you doing here?" I stutter. "Well, I'm the temporary archery teacher," my mother stated. "Now go and get changed." Time skip. As I walked out of the change room, I noticed my mother whisper shouting at Connor. "You better watch your back, because if my daughter gets hurt I will hunt you down to the end of the earth and—" "Hi Mom," I say quickly, before she could finish her threat. A crowd started to gather around us. They were waiting for my mom to start her lesson. "Hello class, my name is Miss Diana, and I'm here to teach you the art of archery," she began. "I'm going to pair you off and then begin the lesson." When she finished pairing everyone off, it was me alone and another student, a boy with sandy, blonde hair and glasses that hit the most interesting set of blue-green eyes. He had decent muscle definition, but he hid it well under the nerdy vibes he was giving off. I walked over to the boy and tapped his sweater vest-clad shoulder. "Looks like we are partners. My name's Luna Augustine." And I know I said that her surname was Senzo at the beginning, but after a discussion with a few friends her name was changed. "Tiberius, and I know you're the girl who's in a relationship with our TA," he stated shyly. Funny story, the archery teacher happens to be my mom. "Tiberius, that's quite a name. I'm going to call you Tibby." "Not that I'm judging, one of my best friend's name is Perseus," I stammer. "Can we shoot now?" he impatiently says. He picks up the bow and takes a perfect stance. He fires, hitting bull's eye. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" I question, looking at him shockingly. "Camp." "Wait, then I couldn't get the words out. "Yes. And you know that Miss Diana is—" No words were forming. "Yes. Who's your godly parent?" The ability to speak had finally come back to me. "Son of Apollo. Daughter of Artemis." "Hello children, how are you doing?" she starts, but then instantly knew who Tibby was. "Well, hello nephew, I see you've met your cousin and my daughter Luna." "Mom, he never told you about Uncle Apollo being his dad. How did you know?" I ask, incredulous at how she knew. "Darling," she caressed my cheek tenderly, "after meeting hundreds of my brother's children I'd recognize them anywhere." Time skip. After class. "Hey Tibby," I shout. "Yes. We are going to get ice cream," I state, grabbing his arm and dragging him off to Connor's car. "Why?" he asks. "Because I just met my new favorite cousin today. We have to celebrate." Chapter 10, In the History of the World. Luna's POV. The car ride was filled with laughter and joy. When we arrived I jumped out of the car so fast I don't even think Connor had parked yet. "Someone's excited," he mocked. "Oh please, it's ice cream, and I need my monthly fill. Come on Tibby, this place has a mean vanilla." "Is she always this flamboyant?" questioned Tiberius. "This is only the beginning," he replied. When we walked through the door I instantly smelt the best ice cream in the history of the universe. The shop was quiet, as always, and had cute little wicker tables with lilies set in a clear vase in the center. The walls were a cream color, the color of their vanilla ice. I slowly walked over to the tubs of ice cream. I stare, looking for a flavor to try. "I'll have a New York cherry cheesecake, and she'll have the vanilla with green apple." "Yo Tibby." Tibbs looks over at Connor. "What do you want?" "I'll have the Nutella ice cream." "And if you don't know what Nutella is I might have to kill you." "Just kidding, but seriously, buy it and eat it." When Connor finished paying we walked over to a table by the window. "This place has the best view," I state. I looked outside onto the glorious forest and wished I could be out there, with my bow, running with the wolves. The trees are vibrant green, the breeze blowing through my hair. Connor saw my face and the look of longing I was giving to the forest. He wrapped his firm arm around my shoulders, radiating heat. Feeling the warmth, I lean into his shoulder, burying my face into the crook of his neck. "Aren't you too cute?" cooed Tiberius. "MMH, He's just so warm, I murmur. I love you, he states cutely. I love you too, said both Luna and Tiberius at the same time. Dude, I mean you're great and all, but I have a girlfriend, Connor stated, gesturing to Luna. I was only joking, I'm not gay. Suddenly two people walked into the shop. The female was tall and muscly with a dark honey-colored complexion, and silver hair tipped with blue. She had stunning eyes, stark blue. The boy, who didn't look a day older than 14, was also tall, but lanky. He had classic brown eyes and that went well with his darker skin tone. I'm Hunter Ash and this is Simon, my dork of a brother. She had a thick Australian accent. Cool, how can we help you exactly? We help you, Connor stated bluntly. I believe, we are like you. Chapter 11, The Ashes. I believe we are like you. Chapter 11. Luna's POV. Excuse me. I was shocked, nobody had sought us out to take them to camp. Ha 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 ha, the girl, Hunter, just burst out laughing for no reason. She does this to every stranger who walks into our parents' ice cream parlor, stated the boy, Simon. I'm sorry, but seriously, you people are gullible, especially you with the silver eyes, and that is an odd eye color. She is pretty gullible, isn't she? Connor said happily, wrapping his arm tighter around my waist. Shut up, I giggle while he plants a sloppy kiss on my cheek. I hate you. I love you too, he says while planting wet kisses all over my face and neck. During my fit of laughter I manage to get a good look at the giant, brass clock on the wall. It read, 5 o'clock. Connor, if we don't leave now my dad's going to kill you. Why? Connor asks confused. Do you want to die? I question while dragging him out of the door. Bye y'all, see you at school, Connor waves as he is pulled away from everyone's line of vision. During dinner with the Augustins. During dinner my father always liked to ask me about my day, but today he was surprisingly quiet. Dad, is everything alright? Luna, I ran into your mother today, he states nervously. Yes, and? I ask confused. We went for coffee. Dad, I really don't see what's wrong here, I say bluntly. Your mother and I decided that because she would be in the mortal world for a while, we would be together again. So, you're telling me that my parents are getting back together? I question. Yes, my father flinched, waiting for me to flip my top. Cool. That's it, you're okay with this? He looked so shocked. When's she moving in? I ask. Tomorrow. The next morning. Hello Luna, said my mother as she came through the threshold. Hey Mom. Where's your father? She asks. Upstairs, but Mom, I start. Yes child. Can you not get knocked up again? I mean I love you, but another child of Artemis might not be a good idea, I ramble. She laughed. I think you're absolutely right. Thanks Mom. Can I go visit your father now? She questions. Yes, of course, he'll be happy to see you here so early. Chapter 12, Big Sap Story. Luna POV. Luna, my mother shouted. Yes, I yell from the top of the stairs. When I reach the family room I see my father and mother waiting for me, looking nervous. Honey, we want to tell you a story, my dad was stuttering from nerves. Alright, which story? I question. The story of us, they answer together. Okay, my stomach begins to churn, I can't do this without Connor at my side. Suddenly the front door opens, I instantly recognize the lazy footsteps, they belong to the love of my life. He can sense my nerves, he wraps his wonderfully warm arms around my shoulders. Sorry I'm late, he begins, I had to finish grading some papers. Alright, let's begin. My father began. Flashback. Artemis POV. As I walked into the adorable corner coffee shop I noticed a man, helping an elderly lady across the street. He intrigued me, he was kind and considerate, qualities most men don't possess. Not to mention he had the looks of a god. I never thought I would fall in love, especially not love at first sight. I carefully walk over to where his things are placed. Is this seat available? I ask. It's open for no one but a pretty girl, so no, it's not available. Excuse me, I was flustered, he seemed so kind. It's not available because you are not a pretty girl, you're beautiful. My cheeks turned a bright shade of crimson. I hadn't blushed this much since I was a simple godling. You could say that he had me at hello, but he had me at no. Over the next few weeks I would take time off of the hunt just to go and visit the tiny cafe. We would talk and laugh, and I would fall in love with him even more. It took 6 months for him to finally get the courage to ask me out on an official date. I was petrified. How did these things work? I even asked Aphrodite as a hypothetical question. But when the night arrived, all of my nerves faded when I saw that he was just as nervous as I was. We began to go out constantly, but he never dared to push the limits. After 20 or so dates he asked if he could kiss me. Every cell in my existence was terrified. My first kiss. Nervously I leaned in, he was bold, he grabbed the back of my neck and forcefully kissed me with a boatload of passion. A year and many more lust-filled kisses passed. I could tell that my time had come. I was about to lose my maidenhood. Thousands of years I had spent worrying about keeping myself intact. That got all thrown out of the window on March 5, 2001. 3 weeks after the incident, I was told that I was pregnant. At first I was nervous. What if he doesn't want a child? His reaction to the pregnancy was ridiculous. He ran around the block shouting I'm going to be a dad. His excitement made telling him I had to leave even harder. He loved me and my child even though I was forbidden to love him. When Luna was born, she was born in a hospital, supervised by my ecstatic twin brother. She was the most beautiful infant that I had ever seen. It broke my heart to leave. Flashback ended. Luna's POV. Wow. It was all I could say. My parents had this big sap story of how they fell in love and all I could say was wow. Although I knew Connor and I would tell our children our big sap story one day. Chapter 13, Are You Going to Part 1? Luna's POV. The winter formal. Every sophomore's dream is to attend with a hot man on her arm. However, I get to attend with my teacher's assistant/boyfriend while my parents are chaperoning. How exciting. Every time I walk through the halls a new person is getting asked to the dance. Connor hasn't even hinted that he wanted to go. Meanwhile I'm subtly begging him. Connor, the dance is on Friday, I state. MMMH, he says through a full mouth. Etta's going with Simon, I continue to pry. Yup. Tibby's going with a new girl, Chanel Fawn, when will he get the hint? I heard that. She's also bringing her friend, Cersei Wolf. Cersei, as in the man-hating, El Hecate supporter who turns men into guinea pigs, Connor asks, concerned. I couldn't take it any longer. When are you going to ask me to the dance? I blurt. Wait, you actually want to go to that? I thought you hated public events, Connor says, shocked. It's winter formal, of course I want to go, I shout. Connor suddenly pulls a single white rose out of his sleeve. Will you go to the dance with me? I give absolutely so reply. I just kiss him silly. Time skip. At a dress shop. Luna, you have to buy this dress, Etta yells from the other side of the small, corner shop. When I look over at her, I see the most beautiful dress I have ever seen. It was a pale blue color, so light it was almost white. The ruching in the bodice was elegant and simple, with a thigh-high slit revealing most of my leg. The crystals made it look like glimmering snow. I knew it was dress. Etta, I huff out, it's amazing. As I look at myself in the mirror I can only picture the look on Connor's face. That is gorgeous on you. I turn to look at the speaker and discover that it's my beloved cousin's date, Chanel Fawn. Hello Chanel, do you really like it? I question. Oh please girl, that dress is the bee's knees. I notice that she is a very enthusiastic person. I was going to ask why she was at the shop until I heard a squeal. Cersei, that is amazing. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr coffee-tone dress with a corset back. Her head had a flower crown on top to display her love for nature. In all honesty, she looked better than me. "Cersei, you look great," I reply. "Thanks, you too." I then changed out of the dress and paid a hefty price. Etta and I spent the rest of the evening squealing in delight. Chapter 14, Are You Going Part 2. Luna's POV. As I look at myself in the mirror, I can't help but look at my mother as well. She looks so proud and happy, I can't help but wonder if she feels those feelings about me. My eyes trail back down to myself. I have a bold smoky eyes that makes my silver irises shine, and my lips have a dark plum-colored coating. My mother finished curling my hair into perfect ringlets. Once my dress is on, I begin my descent down the staircase, hoping not to trip. When I enter the foyer, Connor's jaw drops, revealing his pearly white teeth. He looks incredibly sexy in his tux. You look amazing, be beautiful. He manages to stutter out. Thanks, I mumble. He carefully takes my wrist in his hand and places upon it a corsage with a pillowy white rose adjoining the elastic band. When I fully see the wristlet, my breath hitches. I had never seen anything so full of life and beauty all at once. It seemed like Connor had read my mind because he continued to compliment me and the way the rose and I are similar. He carefully slips his arm through mine and leads me out to his car. I can easily reminisce on our first memories together. When we walk through the doors of my high school, I instantly see why everyone loves going to these sorts of events. The music is blaring, meanwhile couples are dancing as well as singles who came in groups. Seated at tables were people looking for a one-night stand. They are heavily making out. Connor unhooks his arm and takes me out onto the dance floor. A slow song begins to play and we use the expert dancing skills we learnt at camp to use. I peer over Connor's shoulder, out among the crowd, and begin to discover the whereabouts of my friends. Tibby and Chanel are dancing slowly on the outskirts of the floor, meanwhile Percy and Hunter are indulging on some rich, chocolate cake. The most surprising discovery of the night was what Simon was up to. When I first glanced up at him, I took no notice as to what he was doing, but then I realized he was shoving his tongue down some random guy's throat. I had never taken him as the gay type, but I never really noticed all of the subtle signs. All the while I was still happy for him. Connor decides to spice up the step we were moving to and takes me into a spin. Before I return to my position on his shoulder, I see a creature. The creature was something I had not seen in a very long time. Before I could take out my bow, it pounced onto Percy from behind. Chapter 15, Are You Going Part 3. Luna's POV. Before I could shout a warning at Percy, she pulled out a long imperial gold blade. She was a Roman. Once she stabbed the creature, it fell to the cold, hard ground. The shadows slowly unwrapped themselves around the limp, bloody body, revealing a small girl, but she was no ordinary girl. It was Etta Dawnfodin. She was shallowly breathing, slowly dying in front of me. I wasn't thinking. I ran over to her, meanwhile yelling at Connor to call an ambulance. Tears were flooding my eyes and blocking my emotions. When the ambulance showed up, she was loaded and taken to the hospital without me. Connor was hugging me tightly, stopping me from chasing after the moving vehicle. After 10 minutes of saddened sobs, Percy, Chanel, and Tibby came to join us outside. Our 2-person hug quickly became a 5-person hug. We released each other and walked to the ice cream shop where we first met Hunter and Simon. Hunter and Simon's parents became like my second family. When they saw my tears, I was quickly enveloped into a humongous hug. Now was the time to explain. So, Connor began, "You're a Roman." "Yes, and that means you are as well, or that you're a Greek." "Now which one is it?" Percy demanded. "We're Greek," I managed to mumble out. "Godly parents," she persists. "I'm a son of Hermes, Tibby's a child of Apollo, and Luna's a child of Artemis." Connor said my name and mother really softly and slowly. "What about you? Who's your parents?" "I'm a daughter of Ceres and she's a child," Percy pointed at Chanel, "of Venus." During the entire conversation I was silently crying into Connor's shoulder. Suddenly the sound of a phone ringing interrupted my sobs. When I checked the caller ID, my eyes light up and my pupils were blown wide. It was Etta. I hurriedly answered. Just hearing the sound of her voice was making happy tears flow. Time skip, at the hospital with Etta. "How did you turn into that creature?" asked Connor, as blunt as ever. It all started when Simon blew me off and didn't show for the dance. This was the start of a very long story. Flashback. Etta's POV: I had just finished putting on my dress and my parents had begun to take pictures. I then sat down and waited half an hour before texting Simon for the first time. He never answered. That's when I began to become angry. I then waited another hour to text him again, no reply. I couldn't wait very long. I became impatient, my emotions were flooding my judgment. Before I knew it, my anger had consumed me and I was a being made up of dust and shadows. I went after Simon, to the dance, and then I was stabbed. Flashback ended. So that's how it happened, she finished. Chapter 16, A Very Special Day. Luna's POV: today is a very special day. People may think that December 7th is just an average day, but no. For me the day is special. It's the day I was born, the day my father could get over his grief, the grief he was given the day my mother told him she had to leave. It is also the day I turn 16, this day will be wonderful. I'm awakened by the soft sounds of my parents singing me the happy birthday song. They are both wonderful singers, not that they'd ever admit it. As my eyes flutter open, I see soft images of my family, all smiling, and my nose can smell the vanilla extract in the cake my mother baked for me. When I'm fully awake I see another presence in the room, my wonderful boyfriend, Connor Stoll. Good morning my moon, happy birthday, my mother whispers softly, trying not to disturb my slumber too much. Luna, you turn 16 today, you have to wake up, my father says in a sing-song voice. Connor doesn't waste time on words, he just kisses me chastely. I breathe in deeply, inhaling his scent. He smells just as good as his lips taste, like chocolate and dirt. When he pulls away I'm fully awake and aware of my surroundings. Morning Mom, Dad, Connor, I mumble. Connor hands me a small box, about the size of a bracelet. You did buy this right, like in a store? I question. No, I pickpocketed it, he says sarcastically. I open the box, and inside is the most beautiful piece of jewelry I have ever seen. It was a bracelet, smaller and dainty, it was silver, like my eyes. Connor takes it out the robin egg blue Tiffany box and gently puts it on my wrist. I'm stunned at how he could afford such a wonderful gift. Take it off and bring it back to the store, I begin to flip. I can't. Why not? I'm angry at him for spending so much on me. It was on clearance, it was 75% off, he states. My state of worry instantly changes back into a brood grin. I then tackle him into the largest hug a demigod can muster up. Connor was so shocked at my actions he cautiously falls backwards. Time skip. As I walk into the kitchen I'm greeted with a large stack of my favorite pancakes. Mooney, you look lovely today, my mother says cheerily. Thanks Mom. I can hear my father's heavy footsteps, he soon arrives into the kitchen as well. When he lays eyes upon me his pupils are filled with pride, he's proud of me. Happy birthday Luna, he says, while giving me a warm embrace. Time skip. As I walk into the school courtyard I hear shouting. The voices are familiar, as I get closer they become more recognizable. They belong to my friends, the wonderful people who remember my birthday. Just as I walk into the small classroom, I'm bombarded with an embrace from an excited Chanel. Only to await another from an overly dramatic Etta. Happy birthday, Tibby says politely while throwing a casual arm around my shoulder. Thanks, I reply. Hunter then comes running at me only to tackle me onto soft blades of grass screaming, happy birthday. Thanks, and can you get off me, I say awkwardly. Sure, she says like she was never on the ground. Today was going to be a great day. Chapter 17, Epilogue, the start of something new. Epilogue. June 21, 2019. Graduation. I'm finally leaving home, it's graduation day. I'm in my cap and gown, standing next to Etta and Tibby, awaiting my high school diploma. All of my friends are out there in the crowd, even my mom. Uncle Apollo came too, but it was mostly for Tiberius. Names were beginning to be called. I was third in line out of a class of 130 students. I graduated with honors, thank the gods. As the person ahead of me walks onto the stage, my nerves catch up with me. My palms were clammy and my hands were slightly shakes due to the fact that I was only ever nervous in battle. I begin to walk up the steps, closer to my final moment as a student. Closer to making Connor and I's relationship legal and appreciated. Closer to happiness. Before I knew what was happening, I was shaking the principal's hand and walking off said stage a high school graduate. When I reached the edge of the stage, I'm instantly enveloped into multiple hugs. Connor, being last to congratulate me, decides that a chaste kiss is the proper method. I was so happy that I could finally leave all of this behind. December 24, 2024. First Christmas with family. Connor, hurry up, or I'm leaving without you. Connor then comes into view carrying multiple boxes of various sizes. Sorry, it's not my fault you aren't carrying any presents. He kisses my cheek sweetly before walking out the door. After a short drive, we arrive at my childhood home. My parents had decided to throw a Christmas party for everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. As we walk through familiar French doors, we're greeted by the faces of my uncles Hermes and Apollo. The lovebirds are here, slurred Hermes. Dad, are you drunk? Connor asks, concerned. Son, I'm only hammered. Loon, I'm going to sober him up a bit. K, love you. Hello stranger, a deep, melodic voice sneaks up behind me. Long time no see, how's that medical degree coming along? I turn to get a view of my best friend and favorite cousin, Tiberius, son of Apollo. It's amazing, I heard you're a recent graduate yourself. That I am, I reply before I'm suddenly plowed into hugs by my parents. Mooney, how are you? I'm great Mom, astronomy is incredible, how are you and Dad? We are happily in love, my dad can be heard from the kitchen. As the night progresses, I'm reunited with Connor. The diner and conversation is wonderful. The next morning, Merry Christmas. I'm awakened to the sweet sound of my lover's voice. MMMH, do we have to get up? I question. Yes. My space heater of a boyfriend slowly gets out of bed, I miss his warmth. As I roll over to get a better look at the clock, I find Connor, on one knee, with a black velvet box in hand. Oh my God, I mutter under my breath. Luna, don't freak out. Connor's usually soothing voice was not helping in this situation. BBB but. Loon, we've been together for 8 years. 8, it's actually been that long, I'm shocked at the numbers, it'll never be enough time, no matter how long we're together. I love you, very very much. And, I was growing impatient. And I want to be your husband, so will you do me the honor of giving your hand in marriage? He flinched, waiting for a response. I began giggling, then laughing. Is that a no? He sounded so nervous. No, it's definitely a yes, but that was the most old-fashioned thing a human being has ever said to me. It's a yes, he states. Yes. I'm suddenly flung into the air out of pure excitement. Connor was softly kissing every spot of visible skin. You have no idea how excited I am. Oh, I did not. August 9, 2025. The wedding. It was a warm and sunny summer day, but it was no ordinary day, it's my wedding day. I was dressed in a puffy white gown that makes me look like a cupcake when I sit down. However, Connor said that I make a sexy cupcake. That boy is amazing. Etty hands me a bouquet of roses so red they could have been dipped in blood. My bridesmaids begin to walk down the aisle. First is Percy, who is silently grumbling about being in a dress once again. Secondly Chanel, whose days of controlling wedding planning are now over. Then it's Etta, my maid of honor, she was there helping every step of the way. Lastly it's me, I was so nervous I thought I was going to trip. However, when my eyes drift up to meet Connor's teary ones, everything slips away and it's only the two of us left. The ceremony slowly turns into the reception. Everybody is dancing. Connor is a god-awful dancer who was only making me laugh. He pulls me in as the song slows down. You are gorgeous, you know that, he whispers in my ear. And you, my husband, are very handsome, I reply. The old saying is, marriage is the start of something new. We'll have to see about that, I whisper back. The end.